Hi, I'm Heidi Rader, Associate Professor of Extension with the Tribes Extension Program. Today we're going to talk about gardening in the Aleutian and Pribilof Island region. So for this video, I interviewed Lily Stamm and Dr. Michael Livingston. In 2003, 2 geodesic dome greenhouses were put up in Nikolski, Alaska on Umnak Island. Lily manages the geodesic dome greenhouse that is still erected. One has since blown away. Michael Livingston homesteaded with his family in Cold Bay, Alaska in the 60s. Here are their interviews. What are kind of the main goals of growing food in Nikolski? Is it to save money? Is it for food security? Is it just to have the fresh produce?
Lately, we have mostly been growing for food security, and then also I'm homeschooling my children and a few other children that live in the village. So it's been really educational to get them in there working on stuff and learning about the plants. And if we are able to get it producing well enough to provide some food security, that would be awesome. I have a little bit more help this year. So we're kind of laying out a plan and hoping to get more production. When I had everything growing really well, I want to say it was 2 years ago, I was able to get enough greens for multiple households to have a salad at least once or twice a week, which was a huge success at that point.
So the biggest reason to grow your own food in Cold Bay is it's so expensive to get fresh vegetables there. There is a grocery store in Cold Bay, a real nice grocery store, but in all rural Alaska, the fresh fruit and fresh vegetables are expensive. So that's one of the main reasons. Also, that if you're successful in gardening, the vegetables you have can be more fresh. By the time vegetables get to some places in rural Alaska, they're not so fresh.
And just a little background, can you describe just kind of the growing conditions of Nikolski?
Yeah, our outside weather typically stays between 50 and 60 during the summertime. And then during the winter, it drops down, usually not below mid-20s. We do have some hard freezes outside, but very rarely inside the greenhouse does it freeze hard. The first 2 or 3 years I was here, we had a lot more sunshine. And the last couple of years have been very foggy and overcast. And it definitely has a huge part in what we're able to grow because it changes the temperature inside the building so much.
And then you have pretty unreliable air service, right? But how many weeks can you go sometimes without a delivery?
Oh, we've gone probably upwards of 2 months without an actual grocery delivery before.
Is that usually in the winter or the summer?
It depends on the weather. Sometimes we've had really foggy summers where we don't get any planes at all. The plane service that we get has to prioritize the USPS mail service. So anytime there's more mail than they can fit on the plane, all of the freight and groceries will get bumped.
The weather in Cold Bay, much like its name, tends to be a little bit cooler. Yeah, when we were growing up as kids in Cold Bay in the 1960s, the sun rarely shined. Only about 3 days a year would we get sunshine. And as kids, it was kind of a strange occurrence to us. So we'd look up at the bright thing in the sky and wonder what that was. And we'd wonder what we did wrong to deserve kind of the harsh treatment, because we'd become so accustomed to the weather to be overcast and a little bit dark and windy and wet.
So what can you grow outside?
Outside, we have had pretty good luck with root vegetables and things that are not affected by the wind as much. The wind is a really big deterrent for growing outside here. Potatoes grow really well outside. Last year I grew broccoli, kale, potatoes, carrots, garlic, and I want to say I had a couple other leafy greens that did okay. They didn't thrive necessarily, but they survived.
When the homestead law was still around in Alaska, you had to live on the land and you had to farm a certain portion of your land in order to prove up on it. We farmed different vegetables, mostly potatoes, some radishes, horseradish, carrots. Each spring we'd plant, say, 300 pounds of potatoes, and we'd only get back about 50 pounds in the fall.
And just a little background, can you describe the greenhouse a little bit?
The greenhouse is a dome shape, and it's been built to withstand really high winds. And we lost one of them a couple years ago when we had a windstorm that hit about 110 miles per hour. But this one so far is doing pretty well. The wind has been an issue for sure.
The greenhouse structure that Dad built was basically designed after a Quonset hut. We used Quonset hut parts, mostly the steel ribs from the Quonset huts. The Quonset huts were designed to handle rough weather. Ideally, I'd built something like the Quonset hut that can handle the rough winds.
What crops grow best in the greenhouse there in Nikolski?
So we have tried to grow a lot of crops. We've done a lot of experimenting. I have had the best luck with more hardy crops. Cabbage, kale, root vegetables do really well. And we've had some success just lately with leafy greens. I've grown zucchini that do pretty well. I was able to grow cucumbers and melons a couple of times that did all right. Tomatoes on the warmer years when we have more sunshine, the tomatoes do really well. It really has varied a lot by year depending on the weather. The issue we've been having just in the last couple of years when we started trying to plant outside is there are rabbits and wild cattle that like to come in and just eat everything they can find. So we've had to work on fencing a little bit.
Rabbits and cattle are kind of the biggest pests. What about in the greenhouse? What are your biggest pests?
In the greenhouse, we have had problems, not this year yet. We had a lemming problem where they would come in and eat anything and everything. And we have aphids pretty bad. And just last year was the first year we really had a slug problem. There were slugs on absolutely everything last summer.
Do you have anything else to add? Maybe some advice for other gardeners in the Aleutian Pribilof Island region, either to start as a home gardener or a community garden or greenhouse?
I would suggest trying to keep really good, accurate records from the beginning so that you're not still trying to figure it out 5 years in. But yeah. Other than that, not really. It's a lot of fun, and we have had a lot of fun experimenting with various things and changing things around every year. And we're hoping that sometime this year or next year, we will really be able to get some consistent production.
With the knowledge you have now, what types of things might you try or to garden or farm in Cold Bay now?
To try to get vegetables that are designed for Alaska. The potatoes my dad got were probably from the lower 48. I would try to get potatoes that have kind of been known to grow well in Alaska. And then you just have to get out there and experiment. You just have to try this and try that, give yourself permission to fail. So if you plant something and it doesn't grow, don't get too discouraged, keep on trying and keep on planting. And whatever you get, enjoy it. You've got to be a little bit persistent. And that's one of the traits of the people from the region, the Umnak people, was the persistence, even to the point of stubbornness. So sometimes you've got to be stubborn to succeed.